of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a damp start to the week for many of us, we've seen clearing skies today, the sunshine returning, and it's a fine end to the day for most of us before the heat and humidity builds later this week. Here's the low that brought the rain at the start of this week, but it is now clearing. However, it leaves a legacy of low cloud across southern counties. That cloud tending to thin through the evening and overnight, but some of it will persist along the south coast. A few spots of drizzle couldn't be ruled out. Likewise, cloud returns to Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with a few spots of rain into the Outer Hebrides. But for most, it's a dry and clear night with temperatures dipping to around 6 to 12 Celsius. And it's a fresh feel as we start off Wednesday, but plenty of sunshine around. One exception, northern and northwest Scotland, where the cloud will be thicker, and we'll see this area of light rain passing through parts of the Western Isles as well as the northwest of the mainland. Northern Ireland, thicker cloud here and perhaps a few spots of rain in the far west, but across much of England and Wales it's brighter skies. We do still have some lingering cloud through southern counties of England and South Wales, generally south of the M4. But this will tend to thin and break through the morning, and plenty of sunshine will develop across much of Britain. I think Northern Ireland tending to stay cloudy, where we do have the sunshine and a change in wind direction with warmer air being wafted our way from the south. It's certainly going to feel much warmer, with temperatures reaching 25 to 27 Celsius across central and northwestern parts of England as well as East Wales. Then, as we go through Wednesday nights, as a result of the increased warmth and humidity, we will see some thundery showers developing in the far west and southwest. That will move through, but there's always a threat through Thursday, Friday and Saturday of further thunderstorms and high temperatures.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A9 in Blair Athol faces restrictions due to a serious collision. Motorists should exercise caution. Planned maintenance is disrupting the A55 near junction 23A in Pensarn, with slip roads closed. In Hampshire, the A3M southbound between junctions 2 and 3 has one lane closed with a 40-minute delay expected. For Midlands motorists, the A50 in Staffordshire between the A522 and the A518 at Otoxeter has a 30-minute congestion delay. And on the trains, cross-country strikes and Elna disruptions between Leeds and Wakefield Westgate could affect your journey. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is Dewbs & Co. It's been announced today that UK unemployment has risen and vacancies have fallen. There's fears that this will get worse, of course, off the back of the Labour Party's policies now taking effect. What are your thoughts on all that? And Reform UK has itself a brand new chairman, Dr. David Bull. I'll be talking to him on the show tonight. And Greta Thunberg has been sent back to Sweden after the Israelis basically had none of her so-called selfie yacht, which of course was intended to raise awareness of the plight of people in Gaza. Some are asking the UK government to intervene. Should they or not? And absolute carnage on the streets of Northern Ireland as police officers have been attacked and houses set on fire in anti-migrant riots. Look, landlords now are pumping houses in working class areas full of migrants thanks to eye-watering contracts being offered by private companies who are also making eye-watering sums. Ladies and gents, is all of this a recipe for disaster? Yes, indeed. We have a lot to get through on the show tonight. I also want to ask you about free speech as well. Where do you stand on this? A bill proposed in Parliament today, looking at how we can protect it in this country. Some people have suggested that we should have a kind of some kind of constitution like what they have in America, where it is a protected right. What would you think to that? And could you actually enforce such a thing? Or has all of that gone too far? You can, of course, tell me your thoughts on everything. Look who's keeping me company till 7 o'clock. I've got Baroness Jacqueline Foster, the Tory peer and former MEP, and a new face. We like those, don't we? Curtis Daly, founder of 10 Left Media. So I guess you're on the left then.
I am on the left.
The clue is in the title. There you go. It's on my left as well. We don't mess around. But look, you're very welcome tonight, as are, of course, you as well, Jacqueline. And each and every single one of you, you can join the conversation in all the usual ways. What is on your mind tonight? Get in touch with me. I'm old-fashioned, I am. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, of course, gbnews.com/yoursay, or you can tweet, or you can X me. But look, have you got a job? Have you one of those families that have always worked, taken any job you could possibly get your hands in? Are you on the other side of the fence? Actually, you think working is a bit of a muck's game, and you have quite a nice life, thank you very much, living off the state. Well, today we've got new unemployment figures, and get this, ladies and gents, the unemployment rate in this country has hit its highest level in almost 4 years. We're now up from 4.5% to 4.6%. This is for the period of time, the 3 months to April. This is not a good picture because I've got to tell you as well, vacancy numbers, they also as well have declined. Baroness Jacqueline Foster, what do you think to this? We've seen some new policies from the Labour Party. Is this the effect of those kind of things? Is it something different? Your thoughts?
Well, it's a combination. The big kick-off really was the budget last year. And, you know, if anybody thinks that they're going to get growth in an economy by hammering those that actually create most of the jobs, which are the small and medium-sized businesses, which are the sort of 85% of the engine room with the supply chains that run this economy, then they're frankly disillusioned to, without any notice, increase the minimum wage, to increase the national insurance, which obviously affects not just that contribution, but those that are eligible for pensions. The benefits system, quite frankly, needs to be tackled because there are far too many people on benefits who shouldn't be on benefits and far too many people of working age who should actually be working. And so you've got a combination, actually, of issues here. And also, you know, that she managed to find a lot of money for the public sector, but there was no quid pro quo. I'm a former trade union negotiator. I understand the responsibility when you're actually doing paying conditions, and I hope that the crew who I negotiated for at the time certainly had very good reward. But nevertheless, there is a responsibility, and I don't think that this government understood that there was a responsibility to do that. And then then, in addition, just these other issues, you know, the Chagos Islands, you know, paying to give away territory that we actually own, with no justification for Mauritius to take over. And, you know, Ed Miliband with his, you know, carbon capture and literally billions on all sorts of, I suppose, projects, really, that we don't really have any insight for, and we have no guarantee that it's going to be working.
Curtis?
I agree with a lot of what you say there, actually. Where I disagree is the benefit side. I'll get to that. But the problem we have, you're absolutely right. Excuse me. It's my phone, sorry.
It's breaking, the place already. He's only been sat here for 2 seconds. Go on.
You won't have me back on, will you?
Go on.
So you're right that small businesses, medium-sized businesses are really struggling. And they are competing against large corporations. I think that's a real big factor here. What's interesting, I think, to me, is the fact that Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer's growth plan is pathetic because they are tinkering around the edges. They're not looking at growth in a holistic way. When you watch TV, you hear politicians and people in the media say, growth, growth, growth. Well, you know, we're the fastest growing economy in the G7. A lot of people go, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Because growth doesn't mean anything to your average person. What's happening is corporations can be posting record profits, or consumer debt is another thing that goes into growth. So basically, if ordinary working class or middle class people are poorer because they're borrowing more, that adds into the total value of growth. That's not necessarily a good thing. What we need to be looking at is a growth which is either bottom up or middle out. How do you do that? You have to tackle gross levels of inequality. Now, this is not about being... It's not about fairness or the politics of envy. It's about saying we need more money in average people's pockets so they can go out and spend. What's happening is a lot of people are spending all their money on rent and mortgages.
So you want to take money off rich people and give it to poorer people?
Yeah, but obviously, when I say rich, who do you imagine?
No, well, I don't know, because I'm not proposing it. You tell me.
So for me, I'm not talking about those who've done quite well, those who've grown their businesses. I'm talking about the billionaire class and the corporations. Oh. And I don't want to look at increasing income taxes necessarily. It should be about a wealth tax, because if we don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse. Now, what's interesting what you said about benefits, I know there's this pervasive idea. I just want to make that point quickly.
Finish this point. She's about to spontaneously combust, but hang on. Go on, finish your point.
There is this pervasive idea that, well, we need to cut benefits to force people into work. And you can understand the logic there. It makes sense, right? What's interesting is in Denmark, they have a higher labour rate of participation, which a fancy phrase of more working age people are in work than the UK. In 2022, it was like 80%, 2024, 75%. Look at the UK, only 53% of people in work, yet Denmark have a far higher or far generous welfare state. So there's actually no correlation between cutting benefits or reforming welfare to get people into work. You need to look at the entire economy holistically and rebalance it so people can participate in the economy in a more meaningful way.
Well, I think the word holistically is an overused word. I think the comment you made about inequality or whatever, there's nothing compared to when I started in the workforce decades ago. To make a comparison with the Danish economy, you know, I've travelled my entire life and lived in a number of countries, and I was also in the European Parliament for 15 years. So. You know, you can't make a comparison there just because you see something.
I think you can, yeah.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
Because these systems are actually completely different.
Well, how are they, in what way are they different?
Notwithstanding, we have a population of nearly 70 million. Mm-hmm. We have... as I said, we have different types of workforces, and we've created different benefit systems. I think what you will find in Denmark, that people aren't basically loitering on the sofa year in and year out with actually getting a job. And what's happened here is, this is where we come to the benefit system. The oversight on the benefit system's not been strenuous enough. There are far too many people who are on disability.
The benefits are higher in Denmark, so why is it...
It's irrelevant.
But it isn't, because you're making a statement which is X equals Y, but I want to understand the logic behind that. So why is Denmark different?
My logic is quite clear. Because you can't do like for like. What I'm saying is we have a very generous benefit system. When I was a child, I think mothers got something like, you know, I don't know, maternity. They didn't have any maternity leave, and they got, unfortunately, we've moved on, and they got, you know, something for one child. The benefit system is massively comprehensive. And that's fine. But the trouble is it's got out of control. And what we have is a system. We'll come to the migration issue probably in a minute. But what we've done is we've had a lot of cheap labour that has come in, which haven't. That's taken the levels of earnings down at times, and that's left.
I disagree with that.
Left. Well, just let me finish. And that's left a lot of people who already live here, basically lounging on the sofa and thinking, well, my benefits are great. Why should I get out of bed? Why should I get out of bed for another 20 quid a week? And we've got to get rid of that mentality, because it's the same people
using
who seem to be...
here. You're not looking at the facts.
People
I've told you the
seem
facts.
to be contributing to this economy year in and year out, and a lot of them are actually older.
But what about his point that he made then? So Curtis was suggesting this wealth tax on what he's saying, your billionaires, your people like that. What?
Michelle, this is the old chestnut, and I have to tell you, since the last budget, the number of millionaires and people who do create wealth in this country and employ people have been leaving.
That's actually, I want to tackle that myth. That's not true. So basically, individual millionaires...
Let me finish the sentence and then you can come back.
But you've spoken for quite a while. So individual millionaires have left, but it's the assets.
Right, hang on, pack it in, you two.
It's the assets that matter. We're also going to have the first trillionaire.
Is any
the old chestnut about a billionaire or somebody's rich. Who the hell do you think employs people? It's people very often who've started with very little, put their house on the line.
But you're speaking in platitudes. I'm looking at the data, and the data suggests that we're going to have the world's first. We're going to have the world's first trillionaire.
Talking to people.
What do you say to the fact that we're going to have the world's first trillionaire, and you're telling me that inequality isn't a problem?
Why shouldn't we have a trillionaire?
Who's the first trillionaire? Who's that going to be?
Why shouldn't we have a trillionaire and billionaires? Why shouldn't we?
Because, OK, so the way... I don't know, I've got two questions I want to... The first is, why shouldn't we have a trillionaire?
Why shouldn't we?
Wealth doesn't come out of nowhere, it's redistributed. When you get trillionaires, it's off the backs of the workers. Wages are low, not high. In Denmark, they are high. I mean, you're an ex-trade unionist, I thought you might appreciate that. So the fact is that we are going to get...
from you.
Well, we're going to get gross... We have gross levels of inequality. But again, it's not about penalising people. Now, in terms of your idea that millionaires are leaving, individual millionaires who claim non-dom, who aren't paying taxes, are going, so what? But they can't take their assets with them. And that is where people are making a lot of their money. It's through assets, through housing, it's all these things.
The laws have been
changed. But non-doms is a very small part of it.
The laws have been changed on tightening up what people should pay in tax.
If we don't address the gross levels of inequality, people are going to get poorer.
In this country,
we need more money. We need more money in people's pockets so they can spend it into the economy. It's very simple.
Of those that generate wealth in this country pay a lot more tax than you seem to think.
I'm not talking about income tax, I'm talking about a wealth tax.
There's other tax.
But also workers generate an income as well.
I'll just say this, because it's clearly like talking to a wall. What we've always said about the left is they're great at spending other people's money. And you have no concept on what people have done in this country, the likes of the Alan Sugars and others, who from kids of 15 years old put their lives on the line to create the wealth and to build this country up.
But workers, you do realise that workers also create the wealth.
I was a worker. What jobs have you done? Don't
try and evade the point. The question I want to ask you is, if workers have more money in their pockets, they can spend it.
If they're spending...
Right, so when inequality is worse and people are getting poorer, that is why... And those small businesses, by the way, they are not rehiring. They are not rehiring after people being let go. They can't afford...
Listen, you two, you need to take... Right.
You haven't answered my questions, I'm afraid.
Right, in a minute, no one's going to be answering anyone's questions, so I'll kick you both off if you don't behave, because people at home, this is not an enjoyable experience. You've got people in the cars listening, you've got people relaxing on the sofas in the pyjamas listening. They can't hear you if you're both shouting over each other, so you're on your fair warning now, so pack it in. Right, I don't care what jobs he's done. His point is... He's suggesting that there's an inequality, that people are going to work. He's saying that the only people that are reaping the rewards from that are the owners of the businesses. What do you say back to that?
Well, because it's a nonsensical concept. It's a nonsensical comment. Do you think that there wasn't inequality in the communist states in Soviet Russia?
I never said any of that. What's that got to do with this, though?
No, because you seem to have this thinking that there's always... Of course there is.
I'm really surprised you were a trade unionist.
Look, he doesn't let me finish the point. In
honestly, because this is disrespectful to my viewers, and I'm not having my viewers disrespected. They cannot follow the conversation when you both chipping in over the top of each other. Let me ask you a question, because I hear about this wealth tax all the time, and many viewers will sit there. I'm a capitalist, but actually when you do find out when people are structuring their affairs in a certain way and they're paying low levels of effective tax, it does feel very unfair to people. So I hear this notion about wealth tax frequently.
Yeah.
I heard it at the weekend. There was a historian, TV presenter, Dan Snow, I think was his name. He was on a panel show, political panel show, and he was talking about paying the wealthy paying more tax. And he sat on national television and he said, you know, I would gladly pay more tax. I hear people like Dale Vince sitting there saying, well, I would gladly pay more tax. What I don't understand is if there is this sentiment, and it's a valid sentiment, your perspective is very valid and fair, but if it's a valid perspective that all of these wealthy people, many of them are desperate to pay more tax, why are so many of those people then not putting their money where their mouths are, voluntarily making tax payments over and above what they need to HMRC to lead by example and demonstrate how they themselves, by paying more, can help level up if that's what they're so passionate about? Because they're not doing that. They're just sitting there trying to lecture to change policy without leading by example.
That's a good question. I think if you're going to base on volunteering your taxes, how many people are going to do that? You need to make sure enough people do it. The reason why I think the tax system's broken is because the Conservatives, the Labour Party, are funded by corporations. I mean, they're taking millions and millions of pounds of health insurance companies, oil companies. They lobby our politicians to say, we want to write your tax code. So it's not about whether it works or not. It's not about whether people leave the country. It's about political will, because our political system has been controlled by the big corporates, and people are very, very angry about that.
Right, final say to you on this one, Jacqueline.
Well, it's been a very fascinating debate, but the reality is, maybe the difference is, I don't look at data all the time. I've spent my entire career talking to people on the doorstep and seeing how people really live. And there's a vast difference. And I would suggest, actually, you should go out and talk to an awful lot of people and just see live in the real world, because we can all have... I'd love to pay everybody 150 grand a week. It doesn't work like that. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of the points that you've made are frankly, they're just not realistic at all.
Well, there you go. Look, Dewbs & Co, we do like a little bit of robust, respectful debates here on Dewbs & Co. The conversations will continue. We've got a lot that we need to discuss. I want to talk, we've just been talking about companies. All these companies now that are making absolute eye-watering sums by pumping terraced houses, maybe in the streets where you live, full of HMOs and all the rest of it, changing the fabric of those streets. What do you think to that? Also, Greta Thunberg, she's been sent packing back to Sweden. Do the UK government need to intervene on that flotilla or not? I'll see you in 2.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
From the roads to the airways, because a Ryanair flight had to divert after a British woman allegedly assaulted passengers and made false bomb threats because, guess what, she was a bit drunk.
Well, security staff were filmed roughly handling the passenger, with the woman at one point forced onto the ground.
So it begs the question, should drunk plane passengers be banned from flying? And that, if you try and get on a plane drunk, they will stop you. So it's not about being allowed to get on the plane in the first place. It's about whether there should be a ban afterwards to stop you flying for several years or maybe even a lifetime.
Well, we're joined now by journalist and broadcaster Sally Mitchell and lifestyle commentator Steve Miller. Morning to you both. And Steve, I know you all have a view on this one. What do you think?
Me? Oh, I would not ban people. I mean, I would judge. I think it's important to remember, first of all, though, that if you are drunk on a plane, you can end up in prison for 5 years and several thousands of pounds of fines. But I would not ban automatically, because I think you've got to judge the conduct of the passenger rather than if they're drunk. So, for example, someone could get on a plane and then have another drink or two and you know, even sleep, and their snoring might irritate you. But do they really deserve to be banned? Don't get me wrong, if someone is violent on a plane or creates a safety issue on a plane, then yes, I can understand the ban. But an automatic ban, especially for life as well, just seems well over the top. And I also think a ban should not be for life. It should be, you know, a certain amount of time and then it's spent.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry. You've got Baroness Jacqueline Foster alongside me, and new face to the panel, Curtis Daly, the founder of 10 Left Media. Now, another topic that's got a lot of you talking, and many of you have been following this as well, on social media. It's all been documented, hasn't it? And live streamed, etc., to within an inch of its life. I'm speaking, of course, about the so-called Freedom Flotilla. That's what one side calls it. The other side calls it a selfie yacht. That ship then that had the likes of Greta Thunberg on it. They were saying that they were doing a humanitarian aid stop, trying to raise awareness of the people and the plight in Gaza. Long story short, the Israelis were having absolutely none of it, intercepted that boat, and some of those people now have essentially been deported. Not all of them, but Greta Thunberg among them. Jacqueline, some people now are saying actually the UK government should get involved. What's your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, the whole thing basically is a publicity stunt. We call it the selfie flotilla. Off it went with a couple of bags of flour, I think, from Tesco's, and I think they must have eaten the humanitarian aid on the journey there. Surprise, surprise. Oh, here we are, as though they're going to land in Gaza, and a war zone. I think the Israelis handled it very well. I think the video that she made, and others too, about having been kidnapped by the Israeli forces when they actually, got them off, was absolutely appalling, notwithstanding there are 56 hostages still held in tunnels under Gaza, half of whom are dead. And I think they insisted also, the authorities, that they should, before they were released, they were able to leave Israel, they should actually view the video footage of what happened on October the 7th, which I saw actually approximately 6 to 7 weeks when it came out, which is verified internationally, of the Hamas terrorists and others as they photographed as they went round during their massacre and abducting people, which was absolutely horrendous. They refused to watch the footage of that. And the last thing I know from Greta, she's landed in Paris and they took her off the aircraft in handcuffs.
Curtis.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of... When we look at celebrities, we want them to do something important. Some people call it a stunt. I mean, I think she's using her name recognition to highlight something important. But I do think it's the wrong question to talk about Greta or not. The real question is, why is this all happening? And it's happening because Palestinians are facing an onslaught from Israel. They're facing a genocide. And I think that the UK should finally step up, truly step up, intervene, stop arms sales to Israel. We've got multiple human rights organisations. We've got scholars who are saying this is a genocide, an ethnic cleansing. And I think it's our duty, if we want to be a country on the national stage that believes in human rights, then we should intervene and do this. I think that Israel stopping the boat, I find it quite interesting because this was on international waters. And why were they stopping food and aid getting in? Now, I do appreciate that there is not enough food on that boat to go to 2 million people, right? But why would they stop even the small amounts of food going? They've been doing this over and over again, and I think it's time to finally hold Israel to account. I know there's people say words about it. David Lammy might say this is appalling, but action is what matters. And I feel sorry for the Palestinians, as well as I feel sorry for the innocent people who were killed on the 7th of October. I condemn Hamas for what they did. I also condemn Israel's genocide.
I mean, you said about let's not make it about Greta, but a lot of people, they already started writing in at the start of this programme saying if Greta Thunberg wanted to raise awareness about what's going on in Palestine, and it's an issue that many people feel very, very passionate about as well. Many people are asking, why wouldn't she want to watch the footage then? Because apparently she was suggested to sit and actually watch the body cam footage of those atrocities, and she wouldn't. So if you're an activist that wants to raise awareness of a cause, whatever the cause that is, surely you have an obligation and a human intrigue to make sure that you fully understand what has gone on.
Can I just come in on that?
Well, let him answer.
OK, I appreciate that question. I do appreciate a lot of people are talking about Greta. I mean, should you force someone to watch something? I don't know. I think at the end of the day, Israel is saying you need to watch this footage. And we know from media reports what happened as well. But also, what about what's happening on the Palestinian side? Are people saying, those who are still supporting Israel, you must watch videos of I saw someone, and no one should ever see it. Someone was burnt alive because Israel struck a hospital. This is a Palestinian who was burnt alive. So I appreciate that the conversation is kind of around Greta, and maybe this was, one would call it a stunt. This is a way to get it into the national news. I do think she cares about it. But if you say she's not going to watch this, but then other people won't watch what's happening in Palestine, which, to be fair, it's all live streamed on our phones anyway, we can see it. I think there's probably a lack of consistency. But I think this is not a war where it's sort of equal size. There's a massive power imbalance. Gaza and Palestine has been occupied for 75 years. Israel is an apartheid state. And if this is happening to innocent Palestinians, half of them are children, by the way, we really need to wake up to that fact.
Right, response from you, Jacqueline?
I mean, you really need to watch the footage and then come back and have a conversation, frankly. It wasn't just Greta that was asked to look at the footage. There were people on the flotilla from Amnesty and various other organisations. They also refused to watch the footage. In terms of the word that you used, which I find hugely ridiculous, which is genocide. More than 2 million Arabs live in Israel. 1.6 million are Palestinian, Israeli Palestinians. Now, if you want to talk about genocide, genocide is when you actually get rid of an entire race or an entire group of people. If Israel wanted to basically genocide, people are now using this as a verb, the Palestinians, there certainly wouldn't be 1.6 million Israeli Palestinians who are in the Knesset, who run businesses, who have exactly the same rights as every other Israeli. So that's a total misuse of the word. And the problem is, Michelle, with a lot of this, is the words that he used so often, and I would say the criticism of a lot of what Israel's done is unjustified. Nobody has died of starvation either, by the way. And, of course, there have been issues. The last ceasefire that was supposed to have been agreed a couple of weeks ago, yet again, it was Hamas that reneged. Oh, yes, it was. And we have a great deal of information from all quarters, by the way. That's what is very good about being in a parliament. So I think you need to actually just look at your descriptions of certain things. But what I will do for you, I'll arrange a viewing of the footage of what really happened, if you like, and I'll give you a copy of the parliamentary report from the House of Lords of the details of what happened from the beginning of October the 7th to that night. And it's all verified from people who survived, from people who were murdered and slaughtered. And I will happily do that because I do think that you need to actually get some of the facts.
Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Doctors Without Borders, they all say it's genocide. Are you saying they're wrong and we should just believe Israel?
Of course they are, because they're not using the word correctly.
What about Israeli scholars, genocide experts, who are saying that as well? Are you saying that Israeli scholars who are saying this is now genocide, they're all wrong, but Israel's right?
I am saying...
This is not my opinion, by the way. Don't take it with me. These are experts in the field who are saying it's a genocide, and you're refusing. And my question to you is, at what point would you say this is a genocide or an ethnic cleansing? Who is it going to take? What organisation is it going to take? But is it? But you've made your mind up, though. Who is it?
It is not genocide.
Right.
It is not a genocide.
Well, there is
a nasty war going on.
This is a very, very understandably a very divisive, emotional subject. Many of you will have very strong opinions on it at home as well. Get in touch and tell me what those opinions are. Coming up after the break, you might have heard by now that Reform UK has got itself a new chairman, Dr. David Bull. He joins me after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of summer warmth and sunny skies over the Mediterranean at the moment. A few thunderstorms brewing up over northern parts of Spain and temperatures on the rise in Italy. Sunny skies for most of the Greek islands. Not too hot here as the breeze is coming down from the north. Temperatures ticking up in Rome into the mid-30s perhaps by the end of the week. There are those heavy showers across northern Spain, parts of northern Portugal also seeing some downpours. But Lisbon, I think, set fair and temperatures, as I said, rising into the mid-30s in Rome later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again, it's Aidan McGibbon here with the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Clear skies overnight for most of us, followed by a warm and sunny Wednesday, but with increasing humidity, always the chance of some thunderstorms later on. Now, at the moment, the weather patterns are shifting around, and as a result, we'll see high pressure move into the south, clearing the skies, although some low cloud will remain across the far south and southwest, and some cloud will return to Northern Ireland and western Scotland, outbreaks of mostly light rain and drizzle for the Outer Hebrides. For the vast majority, however, it is a clear and dry night, and under those clear skies, temperatures will fall into the mid-single figures in places, so certainly a cool start to Wednesday. Plenty of sunshine, however, bright skies for much of Scotland, but for the northwest, I think we'll start the day with low cloud and outbreaks of rain and drizzle. That is going to clear through the morning. Northern Ireland, likewise, a lot of cloud, particularly across western areas. I think some early sunshine for Belfast, but widely across England and Wales, we've got the sunshine from the word go, except south of the M4 corridor where we do have some lingering cloud. Now that's going to lift and break, and some of it will drift north through the morning, so patches of cloud here and there, but on the whole, England, Wales, central, southern and eastern Scotland, bright skies. And with a change in wind direction, we're going to see those temperatures shoot up. 25 Celsius widely, 26 or 27 in a few spots, particularly through the Midlands and into northwest England. But with humidity climbing, we're going to see some thunderstorms arrive in from the west on Wednesday night. And that will turn into a more general area of rain, reaching western parts of the UK during Thursday. It tends to fizzle away, but there'll be some very wet weather towards the northwest in particular. Then into Friday, further thunderstorms are likely, although in the east it will be particularly hot. Those thunderstorms clear through the weekend with fresher air returning.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M90 northbound at Junction 1B is closed following a road traffic collision. Planned maintenance affects the A55 at J23A Pensarn, with both eastbound exit and westbound entry slip roads closed. In Staffordshire, the A50 eastbound is congested between the A522 and junction A518 at Uttoxeter East, with 30-minute delays expected. In Devon, the A38 westbound is fully closed for road management. And on the trains, cross-country and Elna services between Leeds and Wakefield Westgate face disruptions due to industrial action. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. My panel this evening, of course, till 7, Baroness Jacqueline Foster, the Tory peer and former MEP, and Curtis Daly, the founder of 10 Left Media. Now, unless you've been having a very long nap, and you know what, I wouldn't blame you, things are tiring these days. Well, you will have noticed that there's been, to put it mildly, a little bit of twists, turns, drama, perhaps some would call it, over in the Reform UK camp. Of course, Zia Youssef, regular on this programme, was the former chairman. He resigned, changed his mind, and essentially came back to the party in a new role, which left a vacancy then at the role of chairman in Reform UK. Well, today we now have the announcement as to who that is going to be. Dr. David Bull. He sits alongside me as we speak. Good evening to you.
Very good evening.
Welcome.
Really nice to see you, Ashley.
You've never been on Dewbs and Co, so you're very, very
well, you haven't
welcome
invited me, have you?
Shh. Well, I'm very selective in the guests. I'm very, very selective. It's a high bar here on Dewbs and Co. But look, lots of people are very delighted that their chairman has been announced. They're hoping now that the Reform UK ship is going to progress forward in a perhaps more steady fashion. Is that going to be the case?
100%, absolutely.
And for anyone that doesn't know you, tell the viewers, who are you, where have you come from, how have you got this gig in Reform UK?
Oh, my goodness. My background, I'm a medical doctor by training. I trained over the road, actually, at St Mary's Hospital in Paddington, here in London. From there, I went and became a TV presenter. I've done 35 shows, I think, over the last 30 years, something like that. Newsround, Watchdog, Health Check tomorrow as well. That's the point I made this morning in the press conference, which is someone leaked a story that I was going to be chairman, and they managed to pick out the fact that I hosted a ghost show, the world's largest live ghost hunt, actually, I'll have you know. And, of course, that became the sort of laughing stock of this morning, and I made a joke about that. But actually, suddenly, all the news outlets are now using all these clips of me with very interesting hairstyles over the years, because obviously I've been on TV for 30 years. In terms of politics, though, I've been involved with Reform for about 6 years. I stood and won the North West MEP seat, so I sat in the European Parliament, and then obviously we were the Brexit party at that point, and then we left the European Union, and I stayed alongside Richard Tice, who then became leader. I became deputy leader, and Nigel decided that he was going to take a bit of a sabbatical, I think it's fair to say at that point. We were then polling at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6%, and then, of course, Nigel came back. I then campaigned very hard to get Nigel elected, Richard elected, and the various MPs elected, and we're now polling consistently at 31% across the board. We are now the fastest-growing party in British political history, and, look, I'm terribly honoured to be the new chairman.
So what's your priorities, then?
Well, I think basically Zia felt, and he's absolutely right, it's an absolutely enormous task what he was given. And so we've split the role into a number of sort of modalities. My job is going to be predominantly externally facing. The lifeblood of any party is going to be the volunteer base. So we've got amazing men and women across the country who go out, deliver leaflets, campaign, set up market stalls. In terrible weather, I've done it. I've campaigned a lot. It's really, really hard work. You know that. You've been out and about on the ground. So my job is going to be looking after those members, providing a conduit back to the professional party as well. And, of course, I've worked with Nigel and Richard for a very long time. So we think as one. We are professionalising the party. Zia is going to stay around, which is great, and head up Doge and fundraising. He's a brilliant media performer as well, so we need help with that. It's a huge job, but, you know, look, it's amazing. It's a great challenge. And for me, it is amazing to be part of British political history.
So one of the things that you said today, and it's really divided, to put it mildly, a lot of people, and a lot of viewers have already been in touch with me saying, when Dr. David Bull comes on, can you put this to him? One of the things that you said earlier on was that you said, and I quote, immigration is the lifeblood of this country. It always has been. That was your direct quote. The subject of immigration, it's a very, very feisty, emotive, passionate subject for so many people, and it's one, of course, that divides the nation. Many people, and I mean, I've got Robert Jenrick, a tweet from Robert Jenrick, he's saying that what you've said is absolute nonsense, basically, that immigration is not essentially the lifeblood of the country. It won't surprise you to know that you've got people like Rupert Lowe completely disagreeing, Ben Habib, all of those people.
But let's be very clear, what I meant by that was controlled immigration into this country. We are an island of immigrants, so we need to be mindful of that. We need to attract the best and the brightest into this country, but we also need to look after people in this country first and foremost, and we're not doing that. We have had mass uncontrolled migration into this country. We've seen the absolute shambles of the boats coming across with the government doing nothing about it. So I was trying to make a point about actually controlled migration is important, and we need to make sure that we continue with that. But right now, what we need to do is to tackle this unfettered immigration and the arrival on the small boats.
And Jacqueline, I'll bring you into the conversation. You know, you're listening to David. He's pointing out the direction of travel for reform. When you listen to this as the Tory representative, do you kind of think, gosh, we're in trouble now? Reform, they're going strong, and we're in bother.
Well, I've never underestimated in my entire political career any opposition party. I would always say, and I've always said it, Nigel Farage, I think in probably the last 20 years, has been one of the most influential politicians, I think, in Britain. And of course, from my point of view, I think, I am a Thatcherite Tory. And then a lot of what I hear reform people say, and I know a lot of people, obviously I was in the European Parliament for 20 years, wasn't I? And so a lot of your colleagues, Nigel and others who were there for a long time, I mean, you really couldn't put a fag paper between us very often on policies. So Reform's decided that it's going to go further. We were obviously in government for a long time. And what I would say is, good luck. I think the public have a right to choose. We as the Tory party, which are obviously the oldest political party in history, actually, across the world, we have a job on our hands. What is not easy is when you are in government, and this Labour government are finding it now, who've been in opposition for 14 years, the daily grind of being in government and being a minister and making, such difficult decisions at times really is a challenge. No, I've had it on Twitter, you're going to join Reform, your views are very whatever, and I say, well, their views are similar to mine. So I would just say, David, good luck in your new job.
That's very kind.
And, and we'll be there trying to make sure that we continue as we should as Conservatives.
Curtis, your thoughts on Reform UK?
Well, I was going to say the two main parties are in a lot of trouble. I think this is a seismic moment in politics where, go back 100 years, the Labour Party overtook the Liberals. That was a seismic political shift. I think the same thing is happening. I mean, it's crazy to me that it's not even been a year in a Labour government, and look how unpopular they are. Now, my argument is they weren't particularly popular to begin with. I've always said that in the general election, the Labour Party didn't win, the Conservative Party lost. I think there's a broad consensus of that. And I think Reform are definitely capturing the anger people have, because people are looking at the status quo and feel like the Tories aren't delivering and the Labour Party aren't delivering. What is very interesting is when you do speak to people, we went down to Runcorn, actually, where obviously you won the by-election, very tight, by the way, and people were saying things, of course, immigration came up on the doorstep, because I accept that, my politics in terms of immigration, majority of people disagree with me, OK? I don't like it, but I accept that. A lot of people were also talking about almost left-wing economic policies. People want to see the two-child benefits scrapped, the cap scrapped even.
Well, that is your policy.
That's our policy.
Exactly. People were angry. People were angry at benefits being slashed. And actually, this might, so maybe pundits in the mainstream media, they might not realise this, but there's actually quite a big crossover between the Greens and Reform. I know, it might surprise you. I've spoken to a lot of people who are like, I might go for the Greens, I might go for the
Apart from net zero, of course.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of policy difference between the two parties.
Let me ask you about net zero, actually, because Richard's Hayes, he will call it net stupid zero. He comes on my show often. But where I'm from, Hull, you've got a Mayor, Luke Campbell.
Yes.
He was elected Reform UK. Of course, we're on the River Humber. And the green energy, the solar energy, for example, that is a big deal. You've got companies like Siemens and Broader. He seems to actually be supportive of net zero.
Who does, Luke?
How does that work then?
Well, let's look at the facts here. So the government has just agreed to Sizewell C, which is about 25 years too late. We should have done it a lot earlier to have that base load. I'm a great proponent of nuclear power. But in terms of wind and solar, fine, but it's intermittent, isn't it? And actually it doesn't actually achieve the energy that we need in this country. And also the subsidies for solar and for net zero means that we have the highest energy prices in the Western world, and that is crippling households, it's crippling businesses, and also just going back to your point on the Labour government, which is they've pretty much attacked everyone, whether you run a small business, an SME, the employer's national insurance contributions. You've got people running pubs and bars and restaurants who can't afford to employ anyone. Then you attack the farmers, and that's because people in the Labour Party have never been into the countryside. I live in the countryside, and so the farmers are absolutely desperate, and if we don't have food security in this country, then we're in big trouble. So it's about food security, energy security, and also probably, just to go back to the dichotomy that you face, possibly, of coming over, which is...
Blimey, he's using it as some kind of recruitment tool now. Goodness gracious me. Hurry up, make your final point. He's trying to get you over.
Well, I think what we're trying to do is to have common sense policies which everyone around the country, people at home, are thinking, yes, I like that. That's what we want someone to stand for. And I think the tribalism of left and right probably is over, and that's why I agree. I think it's pivotal.
Very quickly, someone's got in touch and said, can you put to him, there's a suggestion that some of your ideas coming out of fantasy economics. What would you say back to that?
Well, so obviously before the election it will be fully costed. Nigel has made it very clear how he will make some of those savings. We talked about net zero. We've also got this Dodge unit. By the way, the stuff we've uncovered already is quite significant. But obviously it will be fully costed when we come to the next election.
Well, there you go. The next election is years away. Many things will change on an hourly basis. I was about to say weekly, monthly. On an hourly basis it changes these days. But anyway, Dr. David Bull, congratulations on your appointment, and we shall watch this space. Look, ladies and gents, hot topic coming up. Have you seen what's been going on in Northern Ireland? The streets last night were on fire in anti-migration riots. Let's look at that in 2.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, Dewbs & Co. With me, Michelle Dewberry. Now, absolute carnage over in Northern Ireland last night. Without further ado, let's cross live, shall we, to our reporter, Dougie Beattie. He has been there. Dougie, good evening. Bring us up to speed with what has been going on over there.
Well, Northern Ireland actually hadn't had that many foreign nationals in it
as opposed to the rest of the UK. But during the Rwanda plan, when that was threatened, most of what we had was of migrants here moved into the Republic of Ireland because they were afraid of being extradited to Rwanda, for want of a better word. But after that Rwanda plan disappeared in July, most of them came back, and we've now seen a massive influx over the last 10 or 11 months coming back into Northern Ireland of foreign nationals, most of them undocumented. And what happens is areas like this in South Belfast, there has been real trouble here back in September, riots over migration, and they have came back into these areas and are renting houses off private landlords through a company called Mears, through the government. And they're setting up hotels, etc., across the country and making them into iPass centres. Now, that's nothing strange or different from the rest of the UK, but there is only 2 million of us in Northern Ireland, and those areas are now feeling real pressure. And it's hard to explain, Michelle, but really what happens is when these groups come into these areas, so you would have Romanians in one area, Syrians in another area, Pakistanis in another area, and they almost make the area their own, and nearly their culture doesn't really integrate with the rest of society. But the difference with Northern Ireland is we still are a post-conflict country, and in areas like this there is paramilitaries that still control social justice in these areas. And last night what we saw was 2 men of Romanian descent had been arrested for an alleged sexual assault on a 13-year-old girl in the weekend. And it sparked off because of a protest in Harryville, and they marched to the bridge down to where these Romanians would have lived, and the police tried to stop them. Instead of letting it go and trying to sort of shun them away from there, push them away, they tried to stop them with force, which tempers flared, and they went into the areas, burnt out 2 houses, destroyed 8 more houses, putting windows in. And really today I have sat and watched Romanian families leave these areas because they are afraid of social justice that may come down the line. And it is a big issue in Northern Ireland on both sides of the community. And now both communities are feeling that they are being swamped by the sheer amount of people that is coming in to the province, because of course this is part of the UK and they will get benefits exactly as the same as with Hughes and be able to travel back and forward to the UK with no passport because Northern Ireland's part of the UK.
Interesting and concerning stuff, Dougie Beattie. Thank you for bringing us up to speed with that. I mean, it's shocking scenes there. I mean, people can't go around setting fire, assaulting police officers, police horses, whatever it is. Tensions that are really, really flaring. All of this kind of private contract landlords and so on and so forth. What's your thoughts on this, Jacqueline?
Well, it's absolutely horrendous, and it was horrendous in Southport. But what's not actually being reported is this is not in isolation. And Northern Ireland have a particular problem, obviously, with the Republic, which I'll come back to. But there have been a lot of disruption and a lot of issues around the country because people are living in towns and villages, not just the big cities here, and they are overwhelmed by tens and tens of basically 18 to 35-year-old men who have come into ended up obviously in a hostel or a hotel or whatever, and nobody knows who they are. There's no background checks, and then we have certain incidences may arise. I'm not going to talk about the specific one for obvious reasons.
Well, because that's an ongoing legal case. That's why we can't get into that.
So, but we have had cases where, you know, they've placed some of these there's accommodation next to schools and all of this sort of stuff, and it's quite right that the parents are very, very concerned because there have been dreadful things that have happened and politicians are basically trying to just shut them up.
Kazis?
Yeah, I agree with your sentiments. It's scary and worrying, and obviously riots should not be happening. Clearly we can see people are angry, and this isn't a microcosm. You know, we brought up Southport. I expect this is going to continue, but the police shouldn't be endangering themselves for trying to keep control in the areas. If I'm going to be completely honest, though, I don't think those who are rioting care about the victims. And I know we can't speak about the specifics because, you know, obviously ongoing case. But I did some research, and from Northern Ireland media, I found that, and again, I'm not going to name specific people, but there's 4 people who did similar things, and they were white Northern Irish people, and there weren't riots. It only seems to happen with select people. For me, I don't care who you are, what you look like, what religion you have. If you're doing these disgusting acts, you should be behind bars, and I want to see the government do more.
Everyone would agree that anyone that goes around, obviously this is a live case, so I'm not assuming guilt or anything like that, but anyone would go around and say that actually sexual assault at all, whoever the perpetrator is absolutely wrong. But the points I suspect that some people will be shouting at their screens is, Michelle, the point that Curtis made is exactly the right one. We have so many of our own wrong-uns in this country that the very last thing that we should be doing is importing any more, quite frankly. I've got to tell you, I think it's an absolutely monumental dereliction of duty from repeated governments now not to have got a hold of this issue. That's all I've got time for. Thanks, panel. Nigel Farage is up next. Have a good night, everyone. See you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, it's Aidan McGivern here with the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Clear skies overnight for most of us, followed by a warm and sunny Wednesday, but with increasing humidity, always the chance of some thunderstorms later on. Now, at the moment, the weather patterns are shifting around, and as a result, we'll see high pressure move into the south, clearing the skies, although some low cloud will remain across the far south and southwest, and some cloud will return to Northern Ireland and western Scotland, outbreaks of mostly light rain and drizzle for the Outer Hebrides. For the vast majority, however, it is a clear and dry night, and under those clear skies, temperatures will fall into the mid-single figures in places, so certainly a cool start to Wednesday. Plenty of sunshine, however, bright skies for much of Scotland, but for the northwest, I think we'll start the day with low cloud and outbreaks of rain and drizzle. That is going to clear through the morning. Northern Ireland, likewise, a lot of cloud, particularly across western areas. I think some early sunshine for Belfast, but widely across England and Wales, we've got the sunshine from the word go, except south of the M4 corridor, where we do have some lingering cloud. Now, that's going to lift and break, and some of it will drift north through the morning, so patches of cloud here and there, but on the whole, England, Wales, central, southern and eastern Scotland, bright skies. And with a change in wind direction, we're going to see those temperatures shoot up. 25 Celsius widely, 26 or 27 in a few spots, particularly through the Midlands and into northwest England. But with humidity climbing, we're going to see some thunderstorms arrive in from the west on Wednesday night, and that will turn into a more general area of rain, reaching western parts of the UK during Thursday. It tends to fizzle away, but there'll be some very wet weather towards the northwest in particular. Then into Friday, further thunderstorms are likely, although in the east it will be particularly hot. Those thunderstorms clear through the weekend with fresher air returning.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M90 northbound at Junction 1B remains closed following a road traffic incident. Motorists are advised to proceed with caution. Diversions are in place on the A40 in both directions between Shethrog and Lanamlack due to planned maintenance. In Staffordshire, those on the A50 eastbound between the A522 and the junction with the A518 at Uttoxeter East are facing congestion delays. In Devon, road management on the A38 westbound has necessitated closing all lanes. And on the trains, disruptions are expected between Leeds and Wakefield Westgate due to ongoing industrial action. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses for a chance to win £54,321?